Trauma can be linked to single events, multiple events over time, and can also be intergenerational. We will look at what happens in our brain when we flip our lid or lose control. The concept of flipping our lid actually describes what is going on in our brain. Professor Dan Siegel uses the hand to demonstrate how different parts of the brain are triggered in different situations. The arm represents your brainstem, and the wrist represents the ancient part of your brain that controls breathing and heart rate. The thumb represents your amygdala, your downstairs brain or alarm centre. It controls the big responses like freeze, fight or flight. Your fingers then cover the thumb, forming a lid that is the prefrontal cortex or upstairs brain. This is the rational part of the brain which, when engaged, can override the downstairs brain and decide rationally how you will react. When the downstairs or ancient brain is triggered, we can lose control of our emotions and literally flip our lid, throwing our upstairs brain offline and causing us to react with big emotions like fear and anger. Flipping your lid can be triggered by sounds, smells, voice tones, specific people, and more. Flipping your own lid can also lead to a chain reaction in those around you. This is particularly important to understand when working with young people who have experienced a psychologically distressing event that is outside the range of normal childhood experience and involves a sense of intense fear, terror, or helplessness. Events like this can be categorized as either Type 1 trauma, also referred to as simple trauma, or Type 2 trauma, also referred to as complex trauma. Simple trauma refers to a single traumatic incident, for example, a car accident or a natural disaster. The event is perceived as life-threatening and/or has the potential to cause serious injury and is often sudden or unexpected. Complex trauma involves interpersonal threat, violence or violation, and children who experience complex trauma are generally exposed to multiple traumatic events over an extended period of time. Examples of interpersonal adverse childhood experiences that can result in complex trauma include abuse, neglect, and exposure to domestic violence. Children may face multiple forms of oppression throughout the course of their life, including acts of abuse and violence, inappropriate professional intervention, unrealistic parental ideas of what a normal childhood looks like, and socio-economic issues like poverty, racism, and homophobia. We will look at some of these adverse childhood experiences, ACEs, and the importance of protective factors. By using the ARC model as a framework to help, we will look to understand how a young person's sense of self and the ability to function in everyday life is built from the ground up through interactions with their support networks. The ARC model looks at attachment, regulation, and competency, and skills for dealing with the everyday challenges and stresses that life presents. The goal of the model is trauma experience integration, which ultimately means that young people are supported to act in the present rather than being guided by past experiences. Where there is developmental trauma, individuals may grow up feeling that what they went through was normal, so they cannot recognise their behaviours as problematic or unhelpful. As we will see, these behaviours help them to survive at the time. We will look to understand how trauma shapes the lens or perception of reality for young people, and how this may relate to certain behaviours, and find out more about traumatic triggers, what the term means, and what happens when someone is triggered. Instead of simply suppressing behaviour through punishment or control, trauma-informed practice requires us to ask why young people are engaging in a particular behaviour, and how we can help to have their needs met in other ways. Challenging behaviour usually has two main functions: to avoid danger and to meet a need. We will aim to make you aware of your responses to difficult situations and get you to identify some of the behaviours that trigger you to be reactive rather than proactive. It's about being heard, being validated, and feeling supported. The aim of supporting young people with complex trauma is that young person's traumatic responses are replaced by more adaptive and healthy coping strategies, and they start to feel that they can have a good life as defined by them, and they don't need to engage in big behaviours like self-harm or crime because they feel unable to ask for help or don't know how to regulate negative emotions. With your help, they can learn that they are not stupid, dumb, or embarrassing, and that they don't have to be violent or labelled a criminal.